Today, we're diving into two of the most chilling unsolved mysteries you've probably never heard of. These stories will mess with your mind and keep you on the edge of your seat. If you love mysteries, the unsolvable, and mind-bending theories, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. And hey, if you figure out these mysteries before we do, you might just be smarter than the internet detectives out there. All right, let's dive into our first story. Today we'll be diving into the bizarre and haunting disappearance of 5 men who went out for a night of fun and never came back. This is the story of the Yuba County Five, a case that has haunted investigators and left families with more questions than answers for over 40 years. In February of 1978, 5 friends from Yuba City, California, Bill Sterling, Jack Madruga, Ted Wire, Jack Hewitt, and Gary Mathias, set out for a basketball game at a nearby college. It was a trip they'd made many times before, nothing out of the ordinary. But what happened next would turn their lives, and the lives of everyone who knew them, into a nightmare. The group, all of whom had mild intellectual disabilities or mental health challenges, were known as the boys among their families. They were close, dependable, and excited for the basketball tournament the next day, where they would be playing. The night started off normal. They watched the game, cheered for their team, and after it was over, got back in their car, a 1969 Mercury Montego, to head home. But somewhere along the way, something went wrong. The men never made it back to Yuba City that night. Days passed and their families grew increasingly worried. It wasn't like them to just disappear. Finally, after contacting the authorities, a search was launched to track them down. The first break in the case came just 2 days later, when their car was found abandoned on a remote mountain road near the Plumas National Forest, 70 miles from where they were supposed to be. The question that immediately puzzled investigators was, why were they up there? None of the men were familiar with the area. In fact, they had no reason to be anywhere near those mountains. It was completely out of the way, and worse, the road was treacherous, especially in the winter. The car was found in good condition. There was still fuel in the tank, and it wasn't stuck in the snow. The keys were missing, but the doors were unlocked. Food wrappers and empty soda cans were left behind, and a map of California lay on the seat. But there was no sign of the 5 men. It was as if they had just vanished. For weeks, search teams scoured the mountains. Helicopters, search dogs, volunteers, all looking for any trace of the Yuba County Five. But the winter was harsh, and the snow made it nearly impossible to cover every inch of the rugged terrain. Days turned into weeks and hope began to fade. And then, the snow melted. Months after the men disappeared, on June 4th, 1978, a group of motorcyclists stumbled upon a Forest Service trailer 19 miles from where the car had been abandoned. What they found inside would only deepen the mystery. Inside the trailer was the body of Ted Wire, one of the missing men. But here's where things get even stranger. Despite being found in a trailer stocked with food, blankets, and other survival gear, Ted had starved to death. He had lost nearly half his body weight and was wrapped in several layers of clothing. Even more chilling, Ted had died 3 months after the group had vanished. How could Ted have survived for so long in a fully stocked trailer, yet still succumb to starvation? And where were the others? The search continued, but what investigators found next raised even more disturbing questions. Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found lying side by side in the snow, just a short distance from the trailer, as if they had been trying to find help. Their bodies were in advanced stages of decomposition, but what shocked investigators was how close they were to safety, yet they never made it. But where were the other 2? As the search expanded, investigators finally found the remains of Jack Hewitt, scattered along the edge of a ravine. His bones were picked clean, likely by animals, but once again, the mystery deepened. What had driven these men into the freezing wilderness, and why didn't they make it back? But perhaps the strangest part of this mystery is that one man was never found. Gary Mathias, one of the 5, was never found. His boots were left inside the trailer, but his body was never recovered. To this day, his fate remains unknown. There are plenty of theories, of course. Some believe the group was chased, maybe by someone or something, forcing them to flee their car in a panic. Others think they may have gotten lost or disoriented in the dark, but that doesn't explain why they abandoned their vehicle or how they survived for months in those conditions without finding help. What really happened to the Yuba County Five? Why did they drive so far off course? And what terrified them enough to abandon their only shelter and walk into the freezing wilderness? Was it a tragic accident? Or was there something far more sinister at play? To this day, the disappearance of the Yuba County Five remains one of America's most haunting cold cases. The families are left with no answers, and the investigators still scratch their heads over the bizarre events of that February night. And with Gary Mathias still missing, the mystery only grows. Crazy, right? And we're only halfway through. If that story didn't already blow your mind, this next one is about to take things to a whole new level of strange. If you love mysteries so much that you join a detective agency just to figure these out, then you definitely want to hit that subscribe button. I mean, come on, why solve them alone when we can dive into the weirdness together? All right, let's dive into our second story. Hold on to your seats because this one's even more bizarre. They were born together, lived in complete silence together, and eventually descended into madness together. This is the disturbing story of June and Jennifer Gibbons, the silent twins. A mystery so strange, it baffled doctors and left behind more questions than answers. What was the force that bound them together? And what ultimately drove one of them to make the ultimate sacrifice? June and Jennifer Gibbons were born in 1963, identical twins growing up in a small town in Wales. From the beginning, their bond was unsettling. As children, they refused to speak to anyone except each other. Not their parents, not their teachers, not their friends. The world outside of their twin bubble didn't exist. It was as if they were trapped in a world only they could understand. They developed their own private language, indecipherable to anyone else. It was a bond so strong that they mirrored each other's movements, actions, and even their thoughts. And the more they isolated themselves, the more their obsession with each other grew. But with that obsession came something far darker, something no one, not even the twins, could control. As they grew older, their behavior became more troubling. They started committing petty crimes, vandalism, arson, and were eventually sent to Broadmoor, a high-security psychiatric hospital. But it was there that their darkest thoughts emerged. Inside those locked walls, June and Jennifer descended into madness. In their private diaries, they revealed a chilling truth. Each twin believed the other was controlling their life. They wrote about a violent, obsessive need to break free of one another. And yet, they couldn't. They were bound by something stronger than logic, stronger than will. One diary entry revealed something truly disturbing. Jennifer wrote, "We have decided that one of us must die so that the other can live." Then, in 1993, after years of their strange, silent existence, something happened. The twins were set to be transferred to a lower security facility. As they were driven away from Broadmoor, Jennifer leaned over to her sister June and whispered, "I'm going to die today." Hours later, Jennifer was dead. Doctors were baffled. Jennifer had no prior health conditions, and there were no signs of trauma or foul play. She simply stopped living. June, on the other hand, seemed to come to life. She spoke for the first time in years, as if Jennifer's death had somehow freed her. Was this what they had planned all along? Had Jennifer sacrificed herself so her twin could finally live a normal life? June has never fully explained what happened that day. In interviews, she speaks of her sister with both love and fear, as if Jennifer's presence still lingers, haunting her. Was their bond a result of deep psychological trauma? Or was there something more, something unexplainable, that tied them together? June Gibbons still lives in quiet isolation, and Jennifer's grave remains untouched, a silent reminder of a bond so powerful that death itself couldn't fully sever it. To this day, no one knows what truly happened between June and Jennifer Gibbons. Was Jennifer's death an act of sacrifice, or something far more sinister? One thing is certain, the story of the silent twins remains one of the most chilling and unexplainable mysteries in modern history. The question is, how far would you go to escape someone who is, quite literally, a part of you? What do you think happened to the silent twins? Was their bond supernatural or simply the result of isolation and obsession? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more mysteries that defy explanation.